Israeli PM Minister Netanyahu, it is an honor for ILTV to be sitting with you and for our viewers from across the world who are watching you. Many of our viewers have made aliyah, they've immigrated to Israel and have followed your tenure as the longest sitting Israeli Prime Minister in history and are very passionate about this country and about the future and what it holds. So my first question for you is starting with the elections, of course. The latest polls show that you are on the verge of getting the majority of seats to form a right-wing government. Now the question is, you don't seem to be convinced in many of the interviews you've recently given. Why is that the case?
Because that's not the polls that we see. If we take the average of the polls, that's not true. We don't have, the right doesn't have the 61 votes needed. Lieberman has crossed to the left. He's joined Ahmed Tibi, Ayman Uda in supporting Benny Gantz and Yair Lapid. He said he wants a government also with Amir Peretz. So they have more votes. For us to win, we need to get that extra mandate that we didn't get last time. We had 60, we need 61. Furthermore, I see that Likud is behind Gantz and Lapid's party. So we need the combination of having the largest party, Likud, and the bloc. And this means voting for Likud. And the Likud voters are saying what you're saying. They're saying he's going to win anyway. Bibi's going to win anyway. We can afford to stay at home. Because they stay at home, we're going to lose. So I call at this late hour for those who want me to continue to lead the country in the way that I've led it in the last decade and made it into a world power in so many ways, then come and vote for me and vote for Likud. Don't waste your vote on other parties, small parties on the right that will either not cross the threshold like Utzma, and then you throw your vote away, or that are going to pass the threshold anyway, like Shaked and Smotrich. They're going to cross anyway. Bring us that vote to make us the bigger party and to make sure that we form the next government. It's voting machal.
Now, for Olim, one of the main issues is the line between religion and state in Israel. And, that is largely determined by the next coalition that we're going to be seeing. My question for you is, who do you view as your natural partners in this coalition? Is that more of the ultra-Orthodox, and Yamina, who are focusing on a more religious identity in the state, versus what we're seeing on the left with Kahol and Navan, focusing on secular issues?
Well, first of all, I've maintained the status quo stringently in the last, in all the years that I've been Prime Minister. Sometimes I've sought novel ways for questions like conversion with the Ne'eman Commission that I appointed, but I've kept the status quo. I didn't allow that to change. And I'm committed to that. I'm going to put it in my coalition agreements. And I think this is the right balance in Israel. But to do that, and I don't think we should say, well, these people are totally unacceptable. I say people who don't agree with me politically, they shouldn't be part of my government. But if they agree to my political policies, they can be. I don't say that because they wear a kippah or they don't wear a kippah, they won't be in the government. I think that's absurd. I think that's just unacceptable. What is acceptable is to keep the status quo. That's my commitment. That's what will happen. But if you want, again, we're at the cusp of a great change, a historic change. I had President Trump call me the other day. He called me. I didn't have him call me. He called me on his own volition. And he said, he agreed with me that we should begin formal talks on an Israel-American defense treaty, a historic breakthrough that will make Israel safe for generations. That requires leadership. Gantz and Lapid, who supported the scandalous Iran deal that endangers Israel's survival, oppose the historic Israel-American defense treaty that I intend to move with Trump.
Now, you've spoken about applying sovereignty over Israeli settlements and annexing parts of the West Bank, like the Jordan Valley, the northern Dead Sea. These are promises that you have made in the past, but haven't come to fruition. Why now? And why do you want to be Prime Minister again? What is your main hope? What is your main goal for the future of this country?
Well, for 10 years under the successive Obama and Clinton and Obama administrations, I had to block the demands not for annexation, but for withdrawal to the 67 lines, which would endanger Israel. I blocked it. In the last 3 years under the Trump administration, I've been moving things that have been unimaginable. We've got the Americans to agree to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital, to move their embassy here, to recognize our sovereignty in the Golan Heights, to pull out of the dangerous Iran agreement, which Gantz and Lapid support. All of that has been here. Now we're at the cusp of doing something great. I've been preparing the ground for American recognition for our annexation of the Jordan Valley, and indeed I intend to apply Israeli law to all the settlements, inside the blocks, outside the blocks. It's interesting to see, because I told them that I'm going to say it, the Americans. They didn't exactly, hit back. They said, in a briefing, a White House briefing, they said, well, it doesn't negate President Trump's peace plan. That didn't come by accident. I remember when we built a house in Gilo here in Jerusalem, what the previous administration did was they condemned us. They said horrible things. I'm changing it. I'm changing it. And I can bring this historic change now to realize what we've all dreamed about, giving us the secure border that we need on the Jordan Valley, having Israel stay there forever, having an American-Israel defense treaty. That's what I want to do. But in order for me to do it, I can't do it by myself. You have to put me there to do it. And you have to decide, who do you want, Lapid and Gantz or me? If you want me, you've got to come and vote for me, because right now we're losing.
Well, that's where the question then comes in. You have been putting a lot of pressure, you could say, and been very critical of the Israeli media for their coverage of you and your leadership. That's a nice way to put it.
That's it.
I mean, what is
become an understated diplomat.
Well, what is the expectation that you have for how the Israeli media should be covering not only you, but these elections?
They're totally, it's almost a Soviet media, not everything, but most of it. It's totally one-sided. It just is, I call it Gantz TV. That's basically what the mainstream media is. Unlike the United States, there is no Fox TV here. So in the broadcast medium, it's really almost 100% left. Left interviews, left interviews, left. Here and there you have, individual exceptions, but the main networks are moving in that direction. Which brings me to say, if you don't believe them, then you have to come and vote.
Well, that's where questions about the indictments, of course, come into play here. The Attorney General has announced his intention to indict you on multiple corruption charges, and we're seeing police leaks come out on a daily basis about these cases. What is your response to these charges?
These cases are absurd. These whole investigations are absurd. They're a major witch hunt. And you can see that. They spent $250 million shekels. It's just unbelievable. $250 million shekels on nothing. And the only thing that they have are 3 people who they turned into state witnesses by putting into dungeons and telling them, if you care about your family, you care about your children, you care about your grandchildren, give us something about Netanyahu. Change your lawyer, and other scandalous things that you can't do. You see the secret tape recording of Mr. Alovich and his son. They didn't know they were being recorded. And the son says to his father, "Father, save me, give them something on Netanyahu." And Alovich says, "I can't, my son, because they asked me to lie, and I won't lie." I don't think any of this will hold up a day. It'll just, the whole thing will collapse. But I think right now, the real question is, who wins? I win or they win? And if they win, then I think the course of Israel will change. If people understand, people who listen to me understand that we've turned Israel into a world power in many respects. We're rated as the 8th power in the world, tiny Israel, because we made it big and strong. And this is my vision, making Israel very strong, being accepted in the world and by the Arab world, not by being weak, not by bowing our heads, not by making dangerous concessions and withdrawals, but quite the opposite, being strong economically, strong militarily, strong diplomatically. This is what I've led. This peace through strength and prosperity through strength. If you believe that, then you have to come and vote for me. I want to continue this to make Israel safe for generations, but it's up to your voters, ILTV voters. Hello, all of you out there. If you want me to continue leading this country, then you have to come and vote for me. Vote Likud. Thank you.
Prime Minister, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.